As the #1 selling walk-in tub in North America, SafeStep walk-in tubs are built to maximize your safety and comfort. Each tub comes standard with a dual hydrotherapy system, so you can enjoy the luxuries of bathing comfortably at home. Soothing jets increase mobility and ease pain, while the rainfall shower head refreshes you from head to toe. Visit SafeStepTub.com today to request your free quote and ask about our special offers.
There is still no peace in sight after nearly 3 hours of meeting held in Anchorage City in Alaska, a state in the United States, US, between President Vladimir Putin of Russia and President Donald Trump of the United States, over the war Russia launched since 2022 in Ukraine, which has led to thousands of deaths, mostly Ukrainians, which President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine, who was not invited for the meeting on Friday, in a statement said that it was time to end the war, but Russia must take the necessary steps to a genuine peace deal. And while commenting on the statement made by the President of Poland, Karol Nawrocki, on Friday via X social media platform to mark Poland Armed Forces Day, which coincided with the day Putin and Trump met in Alaska, President Zelensky said that Ukraine's independence strengthens Poland's independence, and we must always remember that the miracle on the Vistula was made possible through joint efforts, and it saved Europe. And the Polish President, Karol Nawrocki, had said that today we celebrate the 105th anniversary of the great Polish victory at the Battle of Warsaw in 1920. The Polish army, together with Ukrainian forces, successfully repelled the Red Army's westward march, safeguarding Europe from a communist revolution. For centuries, Russian imperialism has been a mortal threat to our freedom. Poland's political tradition teaches that Russian expansionism rests on a legacy of domestic despotism, in which the only free man is the ruler himself. But precisely because Russian despotism is the enemy of freedom, Russian imperialism can only be defeated through an alliance of free peoples. My nation halted Russian imperialism at Orsha, 1514, Klushino, 1610, and Warsaw, 1920. It was probably a cynosure of world attention when Air Force One and Russia presidential aircraft officially wheeled down at Joint Base Elmendorf as President Donald Trump and President Vladimir Putin met face-to-face for the first time since the war in Ukraine started on February 24, 2022. And the Friday meeting marked the first time President Vladimir Putin of Russia was stepping on Western country soil since he launched the war against Ukraine. He was able to meet Trump in Alaska because the US is not a member country of the International Criminal Court, ICC, that issued a warrant of arrest against the Kremlin leader since 2023 over alleged war crime in Ukraine. It would be recalled that the Russian President, Vladimir Putin, did not attend the 2025 annual Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa summit known as BRICS Summit in Brazil due to concerns over an international criminal court warrant for his arrest in connection with alleged war crimes committed in Ukraine. According to the Kremlin aide, Yuri Ushakov, President Vladimir Putin did not attend the summit due to certain difficulties in the context of the ICC requirement, adding, in that context, the Brazilian government could not take a clear position that would allow our president to participate in this meeting. Instead, the Russian leader joined his BRICS colleagues via video link. Putin was declared a war crimes suspect since the ICC named him in a March 2023 arrest warrant over the mass deportation of Ukrainian children. Russia stands accused of abducting and deporting tens of thousands of Ukrainian children, with many victims reportedly subjected to ideological indoctrination to rob them of the Ukrainian heritage and impose a Russian national identity. The alleged mass abductions, according to observers, may qualify as genocide according to the 1948 United Nations Genocide Convention, which identifies forcibly transferring children of the group to another group as one of 5 internationally recognized acts of genocide. As a signatory to the Rome Statute that established the ICC, Brazil would have been obliged to arrest Putin if he entered the country. Addressing the ICC warrant in 2023, Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva initially dismissed talk of detaining the Russian president, before backtracking and distancing himself from the issue. If Putin decides to go to Brazil, it's the justice system that will take the decision over whether he should be arrested, not the government or Congress, Lula stated. Putin faced similar uncertainty 2 years ago ahead of the annual gathering of BRICS leaders, which was then being hosted by South Africa. The South African authorities reportedly came under considerable pressure from their Russian colleagues to provide assurances that the Kremlin dictator could travel to the August 2023 event without fear of arrest. Russia has made it clear that arresting its sitting president would be a declaration of war, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa stated then in the build-up to the summit. The African country was ultimately unable to offer any guarantees, forcing Putin to abandon his plans to attend the summit in South Africa. Fox News reported that the Russian President, Vladimir Putin, makes a rare public appearance at a monument honoring U.S. cooperation during World War II, just hours before his summit with President Trump on Friday. And after the summit in Alaska, local media showed a video of President Putin kneeling at every Soviet pilot grave in Alaska. As both leaders met on the tarmac of the U.S. military base airport, a flyover of American military planes passed overhead, including fighter jets and what appeared to be a B-2 stealth bomber. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin emerged from a nearly 3-hour meeting on the Ukraine war and gave public statements, but left without announcing any agreement or ceasefire, and they refused to take questions from the press. U.S. fighter jets were seen escorting Vladimir Putin's plane out of Alaska after the summit with Trump. The Kremlin posted a video on Telegram appearing to show at least 2 U.S. F-22 fighter jets escorting the Russian president's plane out of Alaska following talks with Donald Trump. "There's no deal until there's a deal," Trump said. The White House had said there would be a news conference after the closed-door meeting, but both men walked off stage without taking any questions. Trump hosted the summit at a military base in Alaska in an audacious bid to broker a peace deal and stop a 3-year war with Ukraine and its ever-rising body count. It was not immediately clear what was agreed upon in the talks. "We didn't get there, but we have a very good chance of getting there," Trump said. President Donald Trump added via a post that, "A great and very successful day in Alaska. It was determined by all that the best way to end the horrific war between Russia and Ukraine is to go directly to a peace agreement. President Zelensky will be coming to D.C., the Oval Office, on Monday." While President Putin and Trump were on the way to meet in Alaska, Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine, in a number of press statements made available via his verified X social media account, said he held a staff meeting to discuss 3 key issues. The front, particularly the Pokrovsk sector. "We are countering the attempts of Russian forces to gain a foothold and increasing the pressure of our units on the occupier. We are succeeding. Units of the 79th and 82nd Air Assault Brigades are operating very effectively in the Dobropilya area. Today, a decision was made to further reinforce this and other areas in the Donetsk region. Special attention was paid to positions in the Zaporizhia region. I thank all our warriors for their resilience." The Russian army continues to suffer significant losses in its attempts to secure more favorable political positions for the Russian leadership at the meeting in Alaska. "We understand this plan and are informing our partners about the real situation. We also discussed today the development of the contract system in the defense forces and the funding of Ukraine's defense and security forces for 2025-2026. Under any circumstances, our army will be ready to respond effectively and swiftly to threats to Ukrainian statehood. The priority is the development of a contract army. Today, I also expect a report from our intelligence on the current intentions of the Russian side and its preparations for the meeting in Alaska. Indeed, high stakes. The key thing is that this meeting should open up a real path toward a just peace and a substantive discussion between leaders in a trilateral format, Ukraine, the United States, and the Russian side. It is time to end the war, and the necessary steps must be taken by Russia. We are counting on America. We are ready, as always, to work as productively as possible. I held a meeting with the government team, the office, and the Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council to discuss our diplomatic work, the highest priority areas. In particular, we address the funding of Ukraine's defense forces, auditing the effectiveness of coalitions with partners, special formats, the substance of our bilateral relations in key global areas, and our work at the EU level. I instructed that the foreign policy plan be updated for the period through the end of the year. On Monday, I expect the updated plan to be presented. With a neighbor like Russia, only the cooperation of free nations can effectively protect each of them. We value Poland's support for Ukraine. Ukraine's independence strengthens Poland's independence. And we must always remember that the miracle on the Vistula was made possible through joint efforts, and it saved Europe. In the same way, Ukrainians have been defending our state in the full-scale war for 4 years. By repelling the Russian army in Ukraine, near Kyiv, in the Sumy, Kharkiv, and Donetsk regions, as well as in the Black Sea, Ukrainians are truly ensuring the opportunity for all Europeans to live freely, free of Moscow's madness. I thank Poland for walking along this path shoulder to shoulder with us. Congratulations on Polish Armed Forces Day and best wishes for our and your independence to always remain strong. President Karol Nawrocki of Poland had said that, "Today we celebrate the 105th anniversary of the great Polish victory at the Battle of Warsaw in 1920. The Polish army, together with Ukrainian forces, successfully repelled the Red Army's westward march, safeguarding Europe from a communist revolution. For centuries, Russian imperialism has been a mortal threat to our freedom. Poland's political tradition teaches that Russian expansionism rests on a legacy of domestic despotism, in which the only free man is the ruler himself. But precisely because Russian despotism is the enemy of freedom, Russian imperialism can only be defeated through an alliance of free peoples. My nation halted Russian imperialism at Orsha, 1514, Klushino, 1610, and Warsaw, 1920. The Polish people know that resisting Russian imperialism is not merely an economic matter. It concerns the very essence of human and national freedom. Freedom is priceless. It can neither be bought nor sold. It must be defended. This is the Polish tradition, stretching back to the 15th century. I invite all who cherish freedom and peace to join my fellow Poles on August 15th in celebrating the halting of despotism and the defense of liberty.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Co-contestants in the last concluded general elections in Nigeria and former Governor of Anambra State, Peter Obi, has faulted President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's trip to Brazil and also condemned the president's frequent travel abroad at any slightest invitation and abandoned pressing issues of insecurity and other deplorable situations that make the nation bleeds. Specifically, Peter Obi said, "The situation we find ourselves in is deeply worrisome. Our president, who has not found it worthy to visit any of our troubled states, takes joy in traveling to foreign countries at the slightest invitation or excuse, often departing several days even before the events he's invited to." The presidency had in a statement on Wednesday said that President Bola Tinubu will depart Abuja on Thursday, August 14th, for a two-nation trip to Japan and Brazil. The president will stop over in Dubai, United Arab Emirates, before proceeding to Japan. In Japan, President Tinubu will attend the 9th Tokyo International Conference on African Development, TICAD9, in the city of Yokohama from August 20th to 22. With the theme, Co-create Innovative Solutions with Africa, TICAD9 will focus on Africa's economic transformation and improvements in the business environment and institutions through private investment and innovation. It will also promote a resilient and sustainable African society for human security, peace, and stability. In addition to attending plenary sessions on themes linked to the conference, the Nigerian president will hold bilateral meetings and meet the chief executive officers of some Japanese companies with investments in Nigeria. Initiated in 1993 by the Japanese government and co-hosted by the United Nations, UNDP, the African Union Commission, and the World Bank. TICAD is a triennial conference held alternately in Japan and Africa. The last one took place in August 2022 in Tunisia. The forum fosters high-level policy dialogue between African leaders and development partners. At the end of the TICAD-9, President Tinubu will leave for Brasilia, the capital of the Federative Republic of Brazil, on a two-day state visit from Sunday, August 24th, to Monday, August 25th. This follows an invitation by the Brazilian President, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. While in Brazil, President Tinubu will hold a bilateral meeting with his host and attend a business forum with Brazilian investors. His delegation, comprising key ministers and senior officials, will explore opportunities to strengthen cooperation and sign agreements and memoranda of understanding, MOUs, with the Brazilian government. Bayo Onanuga, special advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, stated on August 13, 2025. Peter Obi, the Labour Party presidential candidate in the last concluded general elections in the West Africa country, in a statement on Thursday, said, "Again our president moves as the nation bleeds. Amid the deplorable state of our nation in all ramifications, we have a virtually indifferent president who has continued to display insensitivity to our situation. How can anyone explain that a president who came from Brazil recently and met with the president is returning to the same country, leaving the various degrees of challenges at home unresolved? The latest itinerary of the president shows he will depart Abuja on Thursday, August 14th, for a two-nation trip to Japan and Brazil. The president will stop over in Dubai, United Arab Emirates, before proceeding to Japan. In Japan, President Tinubu will attend the 9th Tokyo International Conference on African Development, TICAD-9, in the city of Yokohama from August 20th to 22. The itinerary is silent on the president's return date to his visibly troubled nation. The situation we find ourselves in is deeply worrisome. Our president, who has not found it worthy to visit any of our troubled states, takes joy in traveling to foreign countries at the slightest invitation or excuse, often departing several days even before the events he's invited to. In his last trip, for instance, he had a one-week state visit to St. Lucia before attending the BRICS summit, where Nigeria was merely invited as an observer, though the role was dressed up as partner to the invitation, which was more significant. The leaders of actual member countries who attended only arrived a day or two at most for the event. Nigeria's insecurity situation, economic hardship, and human suffering have reached their peak. We are now counted among the most insecure nations, the most fragile economies, and the hungriest countries in the world. This dire reality demands the full attention of Mr. President, and his travels should be more within our troubled states and communities, spending time on the ground, and taking decisive action to alleviate the people's suffering rather than these overseas conferences that contribute little or no tangible value to our nation's woes. And where the trip is necessary at all, it could be attended in just a few days rather than indulging in prolonged, unnecessary absences from a country that requires 24/7 attention. What our nation needs now is security of lives and properties, economic stability, and ensuring that our people have food on their table. Our president's planned trip of 12 days departing today, if necessary, should have been at most a 5-day trip, as the event he was invited to in Japan commences on the 20th. Nigeria today demands competent leadership with capacity and compassion to start dealing with the problems besetting it with the presence and sacrifice required. Mr. President must, as a matter of urgency, commence tours of our states with the same enthusiasm he shows for jetting out of the country every month. These visits will enable him to see, listen and learn more about what Nigerians are going through. Though Nigerians know that our huge problems cannot be solved overnight, they want to see 100% effort and tireless commitment to solving them. Most importantly, our president must know that he's not a tourist, but the chief executive of a troubled nation, so he must have consciousness, strict work schedules, and a strict traveling schedule to show that he has a troubled country to quickly return to.
Osazuwa Connedio. bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Federal government of Nigeria under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has ordered the Commissioner of Police in charge of Lagos Airport to withdraw the one-sided and obviously biased court case the Nigeria police force may have wrongly instituted against an Ibom Air passenger, Comfort Emanson, who was seen in viral videos retaliating and defending herself physically after a group of Ibom Air personnel and Lagos Airport team had attacked her and provoked her to action. The FG position on the issue was made known by the Nigeria Minister of Aviation, Festus Keyamo, in a press release the minister signed and made available few minutes ago, although Festus Keyamo reversed himself and acknowledged that the issue was a case of confrontation between the 26-year-old passenger and the staff of Ibom Airlines, who in the new press release admitted that the staff of Ibom Air and the Lagos Airport Authority team acted wrongly, but the minister did not state how the attacked passenger would be compensated, most especially when her chest sexual organs were seen to be deliberately exposed after a suspected Ibom Airlines staff pulled off and tore the passenger shirt with obvious intention to expose the passenger's nakedness. The action of the federal government may ease the tension among millions of people who have accused the Nigeria police force of aiding and abetting the Ibom Airline company to continue to attack and oppress the offended passenger, Comfort Bob, who is also identified as Comfort Emanson, by thus supporting the statement of Ibom Air Management, who in their first press release made statement that seems to have some level of deliberate falsehood and raising up a dead issue to win undue public sentiments, manipulate the Nigeria police force to help them secure detention holding charge from the Lagos State Magistrate Court to further oppress and intimidate the attacked passenger. Specifically, Ibom Air stated in her first press release that, shortly after the plane landed at Lagos Airport, the passenger waited for every other passenger on board the plane to disembark, and thereafter, without provocation, went to one of the plane hostesses, Juliana Edward. The Ibom Air Management described as purser, stepped on her, forcibly tore off her wig, removed her glasses and threw it to the floor, and used her footwear to assault her. She slapped her several times, and when the other cabin crew member tried to intervene, she slapped her too. She then attempted to forcibly remove a fire extinguisher to use as a weapon, an act that could have damaged and grounded the aircraft. Soon after the Ibom Air Management released the statement on Monday, a video surfaced on the internet that probably invalidated the statement of the Ibom Air Management and stood out as an acceptable evidence that the management of Ibom Air are people who may be rightly described as pathological liars who probably believed in telling lies as a way of managing crisis and handling difficult customers' relations, as seen in the viral video that surfaced the internet after the apparent falsehood of Ibom Air Management. The attacked passenger was seen politely telling the air hostess, Juliana Edward, to leave the doorway so that she can disembark from the plane. The seeming aggressor in this matter, the air hostess Juliana Edward, refused to yield to the appeal of the passenger, and Ibom Air Management in their first press release confirmed that the air hostess, Juliana Edward, deliberately blocked the doorway to prevent the passenger from disembarking the aircraft, and in the viral video, the attached wig hair on the head of the air hostess was still seen on her head and intact while the passenger was telling her to leave the doorway so that she can pass. Obviously, this is in contrary to the seemingly deliberate falsehood painted and stated in black and white by the Ibom Air Management that the air hostess' attached wig hair was destroyed by the passenger without provocation. Also, the attached wig hair on the passenger head and the jacket she was putting on were still intact as at the time she was telling the apparent aggressor, the air hostess, to leave the door, and another viral video later showed both the air hostess and the passenger dragging at the point of the plane divider cotton, and at this time, as seen in the video, both the passenger and air hostess wig hair were pulled off, including the passenger jacket she was putting on to cover her body completely. The natural hair on their heads could now be seen as they continued to drag each other at the plane doorway, and Ibom Air Management, in trying to seemingly win undue public sentiments, raised up a dead issue of a minor quarrel the passenger had with the air hostess and co-passenger over the passenger alleged initial refusal to switch off her phone during the plane takeoff at Uyo Airport. the Ibom Air management in the press release confirmed that the minor quarrel the passenger had with the air hostess and co-passenger over switching off phone at Uyo Airport was already a dead issue, and the action of the passenger never led to threat of aviation safety or violation of aviation safety procedures. Hence, the passenger was not deplaned at Uyo Airport. But we don't know why the management of Ibom Air decided to advertise and bring up the minor quarrel as a way to seemingly win public sentiments to cover up the true picture of a separate event that occurred between the passenger and the air hostess when the plane landed at Lagos Airport, and the Nigeria police force in the 5-count charges filed against the passenger at the Ikeja Magistrate Court in Lagos State did not state or even mention the event that occurred at Uyo Airport before the plane took off. Announcing the withdrawal day early morning, the Nigeria Minister of Aviation, Festus Keyamo, said, and in quotes, that 1. In the last 48 hours, I have been in consultation with critical stakeholders in the aviation sector and those involved in the unfortunate incidents regarding the unruly behaviors of certain individuals at our airports of recent. 2. Though regrettable, we think valuable lessons have been learned by all sides to these incidents, and airport security protocol, especially, have been well highlighted for the traveling public. If nothing at all, the episodes have undoubtedly helped to raise public awareness about appropriate conduct within the aviation space. 3. As highlighted in my previous statements on the last 2 incidents, clear wrongs were committed by both the offending passengers and staff of the airlines involved from all the evidence available to us and those available to the public. It is clear that all the actors involved cannot continue to highlight the injury or injustice done to them without acknowledging their own equal culpability. 5. Therefore, after reviewing the entire incidents, including appeals made by well-meaning individuals and remorse shown by the actors, the following decisions have been reached. A. In the case of the unruly passenger, Comfort Emanson, on the Ibom airline on Sunday, the 10th of August, 2025, I have conferred with Ibom Airline to withdraw the complaint against her today. When the police took her statement in presence of her lawyer, she exhibited great remorse for her conduct. B. Subsequent to the withdrawal of the complaint by the complainant, the CP of Airport Command and the police prosecutor will immediately take the remaining steps to facilitate her release from Kirikiri prisons within this week. C. I have also conferred with the leadership of the airline operators of Nigeria, AON, and have appealed to them to lift the lifetime flying ban imposed on her, to which they agreed. The details of the resolution will be made public by the AON subsequently. D. In the case of Kwam 1, the NCAA is to reduce his flight ban to a 1-month period. FAAN will also work with the music star with a view to engaging him as an ambassador for proper airport security protocol going forward. E. Having publicly demonstrated penitence, the NCAA is also to withdraw its criminal complaints against Kwam 1 earlier lodged with the police. F. In the case of Captain Olaranti Agoyi and the co-pilot, First Officer Ivan Oliver of Valujet, the NCAA is to restore their licenses after the same period of 1-month ban after undergoing some mandatory professional reappraisal. The details will be announced by the NCAA. 6. I have directed all relevant aviation agencies in collaboration with other complementary agencies outside aviation to immediately begin a retreat next week to properly retrain and prepare our aviation security personnel on how to deal with errant and disruptive passengers and how to de-escalate potentially explosive situations. The retreat will be fully covered by the press with the opportunity to ask all the relevant questions. 7. The airlines will also have their own session when the conduct and attitude of their staff towards members of the traveling public will be in full focus. 8. These above decisions were taken by government and the airline operators purely on compassionate grounds, as government will never pander to base sentiments, politically motivated views or warped legal opinions when clear encroachment of our laws are involved. 9. We are also sending a clear message that we take safety and security in the aviation sector very seriously, and we have decided to draw a line after these clemencies. Nigeria Police Force in the 5-count charges filed against the female passenger of Ibom Air stated that Count 1, that you comfort Bob on the 10th day of August, 2025, at about 14:30 hours, while on board IBOM aircraft number SNBXP parked at Murtala Muhammad Airport Terminal 2, MMA2, Ikeja, in the Ikeja Magisterial District, did behave in an unruly and disorderly manner by shouting on top of your voice, abusing and assaulting the flight crew and refusing to disembark from the aircraft after landing, and thereby committed an offense contrary to Section 4(1) and punishable under Section 4(2) of Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, FAAN, by Law 2005. Count 2, that you comfort Bob, on the same date, time and place, in the aforementioned magisterial district, did assault one Juliana Edward by slapping and hitting her cheeks with your right hand, and thereby committed an offense contrary to Section 170(1)(a)(b), and punishable under Section 172 of the Criminal Law of Lagos State of Nigeria. 2015. Count 3, that you comfort Bob, on the same date and place, at about 14:50 hours, in the aforementioned magisterial district, did assault one Jokpam Sagan by hitting her face with your slippers, and thereby committed an offense contrary to Section 171(a)(b), and punishable under Section 172 of the Criminal Law of Lagos State of Nigeria. 2015. Count 4, that you comfort Bob, on the same date, time and place, in the aforementioned magisterial district, did willfully damage the aircraft divider Cotton value $2,500, belonging to IBOM Airline, and thereby committed an offense contrary to and punishable under Section 350 of the Criminal Laws of Lagos State of Nigeria. 2015. Count 5, that you comfort Bob, on the same date, time and place, in the aforementioned magisterial district, did willfully damage one braided wig by dragging and tearing the wig valued 110,000 naira, 110,000 nairas, belonging to Juliana Edward, and thereby committed an offense contrary to and punishable under Section 350 of the Criminal Laws of Lagos State of Nigeria. 2015. The IBOM Air Management, in a press release issued on Monday entitled, "Incident Involving an Unruly Passenger on August 10, 2025, said, and in quotes, that IBOM Air confirms that on Sunday, August 10, 2025, an incident occurred on board our Uyo Lagos flight involving a passenger, Comfort Emanson, whose conduct posed a serious threat to the safety of our crew, passengers, and aircraft. Shortly before takeoff from Uyo, Emanson was instructed, in line with standard aviation safety procedures, to switch off her mobile phone. She bluntly refused to comply until the pilot in command made an announcement, after which a fellow passenger seated beside her took the phone and switched it off. This action prompted a verbal tirade from Emanson. The situation was eventually calmed, and the flight departed as scheduled. Upon arrival in Lagos, Emanson waited for all other passengers to disembark and then proceeded to confront the purser who had earlier instructed her. She walked up to the unsuspecting purser, stepped on her, forcibly tore off her wig, removed her glasses and threw it to the floor, and used her footwear to assault her. She slapped her several times, and when the other cabin crew member tried to intervene, she slapped her too. She then attempted to forcibly remove a fire extinguisher to use as a weapon, an act that could have damaged and grounded the aircraft. By this time, the pilot in command had alerted airport security. Before security could arrive, the purser, as seen on the viral video on the internet, prevented the passenger from leaving the aircraft until security arrived. The arrival of IBOM Air security personnel did not deter the passenger, as she attacked him as well, lashing out violently at the security personnel. She was then restrained and removed from the aircraft by force. Even after disembarking, she continued to assault IBOM Air security personnel, and even slapped the ground supervisor. The passenger was removed from the ramp and taken into custody by FAAN security and handed over to the Nigeria Police Force for further investigation. IBOM Air has since submitted a report on the incident to the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority and placed a travel restriction on Emanson, who will no longer be permitted to fly on any of our aircraft. IBOM Air reiterates its zero-tolerance policy towards any form of unruly or violent conduct that threatens the safety of passengers, crew, or equipment. Such behavior will be met with the strongest possible response, including legal action and permanent restriction from our services. We commend the bravery and professionalism of our crew in handling this situation under extremely challenging circumstances, as well as the swift support from airport security and the Nigeria police. Safety remains our highest priority. We urge all passengers to comply with crew instructions at all times for the safety, security, and comfort of everyone on board. We have reported that the Nigeria Aviation Minister, Festus Keyamo, says the ministry has directed for the aviation staff who released the video footage containing the aspect of an IBOM Airlines passenger, Comfort Emanson or Bob, seen in an indecent appearance with her chest sexual organs exposed after the passenger shirt was torn by an IBOM Airlines staff, while security operatives were seen in the viral video dragging the aggrieved passenger out of the aircraft following an act of confrontation between the passenger and IBOM Airlines hostesses, which one of the hostesses blocked the right-of-way of the passenger and prevented the passenger from disembarking from the plane. And after countless warning to the airline passenger to leave the road, the passenger went physical with the hostess by allegedly slapping her on the face, which the confrontation with the hostess apparently led to the alleged destruction of the plane divider cotton, which IBOM Airlines valued at $2,500, as stated in count 5 of the 5-count charges the police filed against the passenger at Ikeja Magistrate Court in Lagos State. We have reported that a careful study of the viral video involving the IBOM airline personnel, Lagos airport security operatives and an aggrieved passenger, Comfort Emanson, on board the airline plane on Sunday indicated that while the enraged passenger was being dragged off the plane by 3 men, who held her 2 hands and legs, suspending her a little bit on the air, a lady putting on IBOM Air corporate clothes who was behind the camera lens could be seen in the video to have approached the passenger at the door point of the plane while the passenger was about to be taken out, apparently dipped her hand towards the waist part of the passenger, untucked the passenger shirt from the trousers, grabbed and pulled the passenger's shirt towards her head, and in the process, the passenger shirt got tore and the passenger's chest sexual organs or private parts were completely exposed. The action of the IBOM airline staff appeared to be deliberate, as the airline female staff was not part of those dragging the passenger off the aircraft, and after the female passenger's body was exposed, the IBOM Airlines female staff never joined or assisted the security operatives to drag the passenger off the plane. This indicated that the motive of the female staff of IBOM Airline was solely to remove the passenger shirt and expose the aggrieved airline passenger to ridicule.
Osazuwa Connedo, bringing you the news in a more digital way. Osazuwa Connedo, bringing you the news in a more digital way.